This is Hammond.
And Jessica.
And you're listening to the Friendly Atheist Podcast. Please go to patreon.com/Friendly Atheist Podcast to support the show. And I want to give a huge shout out to some of our new patrons: Laurel V, Neil J, Cassandra M, Chris C, Kathy K, Alexis P, and Zebulon K. Thank you so much for your support. We appreciate it.
Thanks, guys.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you doing?
I'm good. I have so many things
I
want to discuss.
Really quick before that, it's Pride Weekend in Aurora this weekend. So if anybody is going, shoot me a tweet and maybe I'll see you there or something like that. Are you going to Pride? You're not going.
I'm not going outdoors with kids. Are you kidding me? Yeah.
Anyway, let's go.
Have fun at the parade.
I will. It's supposed to rain, which will be great. Last year was 98 degrees,
Jesus Christ.
This is probably better.
Here's a question for you.
Yes.
Let's say you were in front of a giant crowd, and they said, hey, by the way, Donald Trump is going to be here, and you have to say a few words to the crowd. This is a nonpartisan event, but they brought him in, and they're like, he's going to come here. What do you say to this assembled crowd?
Really and truly, it's like my waking nightmare that something like that happens. like what if Donald Trump showed up at a place and I can't...
Like you're at one of your games and you're about to play for an audience. There's a crowd there. And then they're like, hey, by the way, here's Donald Trump. Can you just say a few words before the game begins?
Yeah.
What do you say to the crowd?
Donald Trump is the worst American who ever is and ever has been. And I can't believe he's here. I am not threatening him. Just want him to know I hate him.
Right. So... I
would be very clear that I was not a physical threat to Donald Trump.
That's a good start.
I do not want to be shot.
That's a good start. So here's what happened. Last weekend, this is, I think, a day or two after that horrible mass shooting in Virginia Beach, Donald Trump was playing golf because, of course, he was. And then they realized, hey, there's a church next door. Quick photo op here. So they tell the pastor, his name is David Platt of McLean Baptist Church, hey, while you're doing your Sunday service, Trump is about to stop by. Can you pray with him? And that's it.
And where did you say this was?
This is in Virginia, very close.
So it's in Virginia.
Yeah, very close to Virginia Beach. In theory, I think what he said they told him is, can you pray about the shootings, stuff like that. And, if you're being cynical, which I think we have a right to be, it's a photo op because otherwise he wasn't doing jack for those victims.
Yeah. And
so anyway.
A thing presidents always do and always will do.
Yes.
Yeah.
Barack Obama sang Amazing Grace, and he took time out of the 14th hole to stop by church for a photo, and then I assume he goes back to golf. Okay, anyway, he shows up at the church. And what do you do if you're David Platt, this pastor? He basically said... a generic prayer, like we thank you for, we hope God blesses you. It's a generic Christian prayer that by itself could not be indistinguishable from any other prayer you would give on any other day. And that was it. And then Trump left. Like the guy had his Bible out. He puts his hand on Trump's shoulders, says the prayer, leaves. It was absolutely not controversial in any sense of that word. And then Trump left, and they moved on with life. And then the pastor starts getting backlash. Oh. Why do you think the pastor starts getting backlash? I don't know if that's a fair question for me to ask you out of here.
Yeah, because I'm wondering if it's from pro-Trump or anti-Trump people.
It's kind of from both.
Yeah.
Pro-Trump, I don't know that he got a lot of flack from pro-Trump people because they got the photo op they wanted.
Right.
But the anti-Trump people, and that includes a lot of Christians, got really mad at this guy because he has standard conservative Christian views. That's I'm sure he's against gay people. I'm sure he's against abortion rights. That wouldn't surprise me.
Sure.
But they said there's plenty of things Trump has done that even evangelical Christians ought to be against.
Right.
And Trump is standing right in front of you. You said nothing about the refugees that he's putting in cages, the kids he's putting in cages. You said nothing about all the myriad things that you could have said. Like, we pray for you to take seriously your job and to help kids. And you could say that in a way that's not condemning the guy if you want to be polite about it. But, he didn't say any of that.
Sure.
They didn't even openly talk about the victims. They didn't even say, like, let's pray for the victims. They just kind of gave a standard prayer. So basically, here's this big opportunity. Trump's coming to your church. What are you going to say? And this is a guy who has openly said, I am not a political pastor. I don't want to play the Jerry Falwell game.
Right.
I'm saying that, not him. But he doesn't want to be political. But if you're not being political when Trump is in front of you, that's a choice you have made.
Yes.
And that's a choice saying whatever you're saying about racism and sexism and bigotry and all this stuff you've done, the both sidesism, all that, none of that bothers me enough for me to speak out about it the moment you're right in front of me. And that's the choice this pastor chose to make.
Yeah, you're tacitly endorsing him if you're not. I don't know. Yes.
Like, it's one thing for random schmo in the congregation to not say anything.
Right.
But the pastor's the one who the cameras are going to be on, and you know people are going to see this clip. And as a Christian, even if you don't want to get political, you don't have to say, like, I hope you suddenly find your way around abortion rights.
Sure.
No, but you can say, like, I hope you stop being a bigot. No, I would say that. I hope you remember to do what's best for the least of these. I hope you care for marginalized people and do the shit Jesus would do. You could say all of that and not, in theory, piss off a bunch of people. And he chose not to. Ruth Graham, writing for Slate, said declining to mention politics is itself a political act, and public prayer consists of much more than the text of its message. So Jerry Falwell Jr. chimed in, because of course he did.
Got shit
the
to
Liberty
say.
University guy. And he said pastors like Platt, quote, need to grow a pair.
Whoa!
And then he deleted that because even he knew he went too far. Platt actually ended up posting a pseudo-apology on his church's website where he said... He didn't apologize. He didn't use that word.
Yeah.
That's why I say pseudo. But he said, sometimes we find ourselves in situations that we didn't see coming, and we're faced with the decision in a moment when we don't have the liberty of deliberation. Blah, blah, blah. I love every member of this church. I only want to lead us with God's word in a way that transcends political party and position, heals the hurts of racial division and injustice, and honors every man and woman made in the image of God. But again, I'm reading that and I'm like, transcending political party means you don't care about the racism that the Republicans are endorsing right now. And you didn't care enough about it to speak up about it. Because I'm sure you have some black people in your church. I'm sure you have women in your church who have been hurt by the sexist things he said and done.
Yeah.
Like, plenty of intersection in there too. And you defended none of them. You went with the, I'll just not step on any toes. And by doing that, no, you just let Trump continue acting, what's the saying, like, first they came for these people and I said nothing.
Yeah.
Well, here's a guy who had the opportunity and said nothing.
Yeah, listen, I don't think you're...
How much prep did he need to realize racism is bad?
The thing, okay, listen.
Defend
I agree.
him for me.
I'm not defending him because I agree with everything you're saying, but I don't think this dude is the guy we need to be mad at right now.
Yeah, he's not the culprit.
He's not, like, listen, like, did he do the wrong thing? Yeah. Did it actively damage people? Probably not. I mean, he had the option to be a hero. He had the option to speak truth to power, and he didn't take it. Does that make him a bad guy? No. Does it make him cowardly? Yeah. But, like,
that's fair.
He's not the villain in our story.
I went back to how many Republicans have done the exact same thing where they're like, I'm not endorsing the stuff Trump is doing. Oh, have you actively spoken out against it?
Yeah.
No, they would never do that.
Yeah, like,
it's like a whole congregation full of Jeff Flakes.
Right.
Who are like, oh, yeah, that's bad. Oh, you have the power to change that?
Yes.
Oh, no, I would never do anything about it.
Yeah, I think we need to focus our ire on the Mitch McConnells of the world who are actively helping Trump get his garbage done, as opposed to, like, listen, we can be mad at this guy. He can be flavor of the week. I mean, it's a lot to ask a pastor at the last minute to think of, like, a subtle way to, like,
he didn't have to be subtle.
Dunk on your president in front of him. That's a lot to ask of a person talking in front of the most powerful man in the world.
I will agree. I agree to some of that. Like, no, he's not the bad guy, and he was thrust in a situation that, like, I'm sure that was a tough decision.
It's an unenviable position to be in.
Unenviable, for sure. That said, how either aloof or, like, ignorant of the issues do you have to be to say, oh, you know what? If he's coming here, I should just say nothing about anything that this church ever talks about. Like, what does this church do on a weekly basis if not saying racism is bad?
But we know that churches are still supporting Trump. Like, what do we know anything about this guy?
The one thing that I've read about this guy is he is actively trying not to be political.
Which is an insanely privileged place to be in. But it's not like this guy is giving anti-Trump lectures every week and then Trump shows up and he's a bootlicker. Like,
see, this is where I you're right, he doesn't talk about it, but when you I'm going to make an assumption here. I don't know this for a fact, but I'm pretty solid on it. How every week, all of his sermons, how often does he talk about we need to help the poor. We need to do good for other people.
Evangelicals, and they still voted for him en masse.
Yes.
Oh, he is an evangelical?
He is an evangelical.
Then what are we expecting of these people?
Because
they have shown who they are time and time again. They're never going to stand up for Trump.
But this isn't a pastor who said, I'm for Trump, as some of them very well have done openly. He's someone who says, no, I care about the stuff Jesus did. I care about helping the poor and the marginalized and whatnot. And here's the biggest person in the world who is hurting those groups. And this guy said, Jack. And then his pseudo apology is, I didn't have a lot of time to deliberate. What do you do for a living? All you do is deliberate on these things. Do you know how much
time he had? Like,
was a couple of hours, I think.
I don't know.
Like, it wasn't 2 seconds. Here's Trump, by the way.
He's an evangelical pastor. What do you expect of him? Even if he talks about
if you said he was an evangelical, what do you expect? I may give you, but he's a pastor. Like, I don't even know if it's a mega church, but it's a big enough congregation that the president is stopping by. He's someone whose job is to put this stuff in words and talk about this.
In theory, that's every church leader, and we see them miss that mark time and time again. This guy at least isn't like physically abusing people. Like, in the grand scheme of political villains and church villains, why is this guy the one we're all dunking on?
Because I think it goes back to what you said about this guy being so privileged that he thinks if I just say nothing, no one will be mad at me.
We've known that for years.
But if I put you in that situation, you would say some shit.
Bitch.
Right.
He's not a loud bitch.
But he's going off and saying, like, I didn't want to ruffle any feathers. You did ruffle feathers by not saying something and defending people.
Yes, and he completely misjudged that. He failed to realize that inaction is an action, right? Like a failure to do something is an action. But
it's like when Trump
was doing self-protection. He didn't want to ruffle any feathers. He didn't want if he's stayed out of politics as much as only a white guy can do, then this is exactly what we should have expected of some. Listen, if you're a person who says I'm not political, we're not expecting you to turn into like the fucking like Mr. Deeds goes to Washington. Deeds? Mr. Smith goes to Washington guy and give this impassioned speech on why government is corrupt. Like, why are we expecting this of this fucking nobody in Virginia?
Remember during the campaign when Trump appeared on Jimmy Fallon and Jimmy Fallon's like, hey, ruffled his hair, and people got pissed off because it's like, dude, you know you have women and gay people on your staff. You know what he said about Mexicans. This is during the campaign, so he hadn't done political stuff, but he talked about it all. He said a bunch of shit. And here's an opportunity you have where he's in front of you to ask him and put him to task. And I know Fallon is like, he's not a political guy.
What does it say that I hold Jimmy Fallon to a higher standard than a church pastor? What does that mean?
But again, it's the same action, which is you have this guy in front of you who said all this stuff. How little do you have to care for you to be like, let me just mock your hair? He
doesn't care.
He doesn't care. And that was the attack. And by the way, Fallon's at least apologized for it. Yeah. This pastor has not. He's like, I got put in a bad situation.
What? No, really and truly. An evangelical pastor. What the fuck are you expecting from him? Where is this expectation?
If he says,
what in history has told you that an evangelical pastor is going to be the hero of our story? What are you talking about?
Evangelical pastor, you're right. Very low standard. I don't expect them to do anything useful in the general sense of the word. But for a guy to go and tell the world, my job, my whole life is dedicated to following Christ and doing what Christ would do and telling other people to be more Christ-like and to accept him. Oh, here's your big chance. Tell Trump to be more Christ-like. No, I can't do that. The cameras are on me.
I just think it's...
Like, God, how useless are you?
The most useless. That's what I'm saying. I just think it's so naive for us to all of a sudden think that,
He's not a random dude. That's what pisses me off. You had people watching. You would have had more people watching had you actually said something useful. And it's like the guy whose job it is to get in front of the crowd and rile them up about doing good for Jesus basically shirks away at the responsibility the first moment anyone gives a shit about what he says.
If Trump shows up at a Unitarian church or like a progressive Christian church that's like pro-gay rights, yes, that is what I expect them to use that platform responsibly. I don't expect this guy to use his platform responsibly. I have no expectations for this man, so he cannot disappoint me. I will not let another random dude disappoint me. What was that guy's name?
David Platt. It's been interesting to see people, because the conversation we're having is the one a lot of Christians have had as well, where it stems from he wasn't sufficiently kowtowing to Trump, to he had the opportunity and he didn't take it, to what did you expect? Because
what did you expect?
Coming from other Christians defending him, saying like, come on, if you were in that position, I know what I would say in that position, or a general sense of what I would want to say.
But you would also never say, oh, I'm not into politics. Like, that's not in your DNA. Like, that is never something that you, Hemant Mehta, would do.
Again, going back to what you said, saying that you are above it all, you're transcending politics, you don't care about politics, that is something very few people get to do because the other people are affected by what Trump does. Yes. He didn't give a shit about any of them.
Of course he didn't.
Yeah.
I'm just surprised that you're surprised.
That's
kind of where I'm coming at. Like,
I would have felt better if this guy said he's a Trumpist and he supports Trump's policies, but he doesn't.
He probably
and he said that,
does and just doesn't do it publicly.
Which is, again, privileged and upsetting.
No, I think we can both agree this guy's the fucking pits, but I'm just like baffled by the fact that
then he got used for the photo op too.
Surprised. Of course he did. Of course.
You're right. I don't know what we're totally arguing about, but I'm still mad at the guy.
I mean, be mad at the guy, but like, Jesus Christ, like...
Okay, legit thing to be mad about.
Oh, God.
This week, the Trump administration, the Health and Human Services, Alex Azar's the secretary, they announced new restrictions on federal research involving fetal tissue. And the quick background on this is when women have an abortion and that tissue is there, it's going to be discarded. It's going to be thrown away. Mm-hmm. But they have an option to like sign off and say, yeah, use it if you need it for research purposes. Yeah. Because otherwise it's going in the trash. It's like, do you want to be an organ donor? Mm-hmm. They're only going to take your organs if you're already dead.
Right.
Like, of course you should say yes. There is literally no reason for you to say no, because if something horrible happens and you're young and your organs would still be good otherwise, someone else you could save a life. Right. Your other option is being selfish and saying, no, I'm keeping them because ew.
I want them to disintegrate with me.
Right. Like, it's totally a selfish position. So again, your choice is throw it in the trash or use it for research. And the Trump administration said, we're not going to let you use it for research, at least when it's federally funded. And what that means in practice is if you're a scientist at the National Institutes of Health, you cannot conduct research with fetal tissue. And there were a few people doing research with fetal tissue. And now the burden to convince people that you got to use it for the research you're doing is has gotten much bigger. The government had a contract with the University of California to study HIV, which could only be done, according to those researchers, with fetal tissue. They're going to cut that off entirely, since the government was the only source of that funding. I think the rule is, if you're already using it, you could keep using it, but we're not giving you any more.
Yeah.
And again, the only justification from even the Trump perspective, their administration's perspective, is this is somehow anti-abortion, or we're going to prevent abortions by doing, because I guess they think either women are getting paid to give the fetal tissue,
I don't know,
or that fewer abortions will occur if they put this restriction in place. That's not how it works. There's no reason to do this other than to let white evangelicals think, we saved some lives here.
Yeah, to me...
No, you're killing more people because scientists can't use it to save real lives.
Yeah, to me it's roughly the equivalent of being like, if somebody dies in a drunk driving accident, their organs can't be used to save somebody else.
Right.
And that way we'll cut down on drunk driving.
Like, yeah, it's the logic there doesn't make
not how any
sense.
of that works.
A professor who specializes in public health law at Georgetown said the new restrictions would affect everything, quote, from cures for cancer and HIV through to Parkinson's and dementia. The ban on fetal tissue research is akin to a ban on hope. He also said, this is the article saying this, the tissue is used to test drugs, develop vaccines, study cancer, AIDS, Parkinson's, birth defects, blindness, and other disorders. For much of that work, scientists say there is no substitute for fetal tissue.
Cool.
I remember one of the first, before 9/11 happened, and I was in high school and I was somewhat politically cognizant of what was happening. Mm-hmm. The one thing I remember George W. Bush doing is going on primetime television and making a speech saying, basically, we're doing the same sort of restriction on stem cell research.
Yeah, I remember that too.
And it was stupid because there's no scientific reason for what he was doing. It was just slowing down progress or making these scientists find funding elsewhere. Like, it just served to create an obstacle for people who were doing good work and didn't help anybody.
Right.
But of course, that's what you expect from Republicans because they don't give a shit about science. This is that, but it's even worse because they're saying this as if it's some lofty, we're saving the babies, which I think that is what Bush did too in 2000, in 2001. By the way, 66% of Americans say it's morally acceptable to conduct medical research using stem cells from human embryos. Like, people are fine with the scientists.
The majority of Americans' opinions don't really matter much anymore.
That is true. But this is what happens when you elect scientifically illiterate administrators because they let right-wing Christians dictate public policy.
Yep.
And that's all this is. Like, the only people celebrating this are like right-wing Christian groups who are like, yay, we saved babies. No, you didn't.
Super didn't.
You're going to make more people suffer in the name of whatever the hell you believe in.
Yep.
It's such...
Yeah. It's bad.
Okay.
Would you like a fun story?
That wasn't a fun one. Okay, what you got?
So there is a Christian group that when they heard that... There's a group of Christians, I should say. I don't think they're an established group. When so over the last few weeks, months, we've seen a lot of states enact really bad abortion restrictions, most notably of which is Georgia. Georgia, as we've talked about before, is sort of like its own tiny little Hollywood in the Southeast.
They give huge tax credits if you're filming there.
Yeah, so a lot of shows you'll see will film there. But with this, when this passed, this heartbeat bill passed in Georgia, Netflix, Hulu, and Disney Plus, they've all announced that they would reconsider working in Georgia after the abortion ban. So good for them. They are allowed to talk with their money.
They said they might. They might move their productions to other cities. They would reconsider it. Yeah.
Like, they didn't say anything definitive, and we don't even know if this thing is going to pass. Like, it's probably not going to. But this this group said, quote, that declaration has caused many avid Netflix subscribers to cease giving money to an organization that openly and actively supports the aborting of unborn babies. So far, now I think this is maybe like they're monsters, but this is the cutest thing I've ever read. So far, the campaign indicates that Netflix is losing $3,500 as a result of the action taken by many to cancel their subscriptions.
Oh, that's adorable.
So...
they lost 3 seconds of their lowest rated show.
So I did some math, and I used the most current numbers that they posted in terms of, like, so they started this petition, and on this petition,
Let me tell you about this petition, because this one pissed me off too before you get to the number. The website is called redpetition.com. And if you go there, it says, fill out our survey. I filled out the survey. It says, if you're... are you going to cancel your Netflix subscription because of the fact that they might pull out of Georgia and tell them which tier of Netflix subscriptions you have? So I said, yeah, the priciest one. Then they said, are you going to cancel Hulu? And I'm like, oh, sure. I didn't know anyone was there. All right. And then they said, are you going to cancel Disney Plus? I said, yeah, sure. By the way, Disney Plus doesn't exist yet. And there's a big footnote, asterisk, that says... Listen, we know it doesn't go live until November, but like, were you thinking about doing Disney Plus and now you're not going to do Disney Plus?
That counts as one of ours.
Because that counts as one of us. Mind you, so I filled it all out. I'm like, yeah, I'm canceling the most expensive everything, and I submitted it. They don't ask for receipts that you canceled Netflix. This is all you said you are, so I guess that counts as a win.
So it could be 1,000 Hemet metas.
Yes.
So I found their most updated their numbers that they say this is what it costs Netflix to be pro-abortion.
Yeah.
And as of Wednesday, they are costing Netflix $114,000. Now, I went into Forbes, and Netflix is worth $15.5 billion as of May 15th, 2019.
Uh-huh.
So that cost them 0.0007%.
It's like 3 seconds of Stranger Things is what it costs them. And by the way, that doesn't count all the people who might subscribe to Netflix because they're taking this stance.
Which, like, it's unless you're like on your parents' or your like old roommate's like Netflix subscription, like, guys, what are you doing? Sign up, it's the best. Anyway, Hulu next. They cost Hulu $34,000.
I didn't know Hulu had that kind of money.
Hulu is worth $9.26 billion.
I guess they do.
As of late 2018. So they cost them 0.0004%.
Mm-hmm.
Disney Plus, I think, is my favorite.
Because they don't exist.
Well, for many reasons, Hammett, not the least of which is they don't exist. But they cost them $16,500.
Uh-huh.
Disney is worth $52.2 billion. So they cost them 0.0003%.
Man.
And just like
Walt Disney's corpse is worth more than that.
Oh my God.
Right
just
now.
like the self-satisfaction in this article I read about like, we're really, and like, listen, it's 100% they're right.
The 3 members of 1 Million Moms are more effective than these people.
And listen, like I am making fun of these people a lot. They're of course allowed to support or not support corporations that bend to their values or don't, but fuck this, like they're smugger than atheists here.
The smug guy at the center of this, his name is Marcus Pittman, and he said to one news outlet, what liberal media and their stockholders can't ignore is a massive loss of money, which would be true if that were actually happening, which it's not. Oh my God, my favorite. He said, since he launched this website, at the time, this is like the day one of the petition, he said over 300 people have signed up and canceled Netflix. No, they said they would.
Said they
All
did.
right, whatever. But he said, that's just with our soft launch. Like, that's $36,000 a year Netflix has lost just within my close circle of friends. Listen, as a guy in his mid-30s, there's no way you have 300 friends, much less 300 close friends, much less a circle of these people. Like, if you said 3 of my friends have, Netflix has lost 3 of them, I would still be questioning your circle of friend number here.
Yeah.
But
some people have more than one friend.
No, I don't believe that for a second. None of you have friends.
My friend's coming over later.
No, she's not. I don't get you people who have friends,
Yeah,
but
it's
there's
nice
no way
human
this guy has
interaction.
300 friends who are like, yep, and that it's just going to spread
I do
from
like
there.
that he calls it his close circle of friends. That is a wild accusation. Like, I'm sorry, sir.
Yeah.
What are you talking about?
I took your survey. We're not friends, buddy. So.
And a soft launch, like I think it's just like
as if it's gonna get bigger,
right? Like, I think the self-serious nature of this is really what's tickling me. Like, I mean, I think of a sentence better than so far. The campaign indicates that Netflix is losing $3,500 as. $3,500. I hate to break it to this guy when I tell him what a CEO bonus is in Netflix. He is going to shit his little pants.
Oh my God.
$3,500.
So remember, did we talk about Kenneth Copeland yet and the televangelist guy?
No.
Okay. Kenneth Copeland, famous televangelist. He's been doing this for a long time.
Very famous. I've definitely heard of him.
A few years ago, I had to double check. Was it like 2015? 2015. He was on one of his shows with his buddy, and they were talking about how they fly private jets, these televangelists.
Cool.
And
really relatable banter, guys.
And they were whining about their private jets.
Oh, what's
wrong?
And
the thing that Copeland said that was memorable in 2015 was that he doesn't want to fly in commercial planes anymore because that would involve flying in a, quote, long tube with a bunch of demons.
I mean, listen, he's not wrong. Where's the lie there, Heaven?
He's like, I can't fly with those people, so the riffraff, so I gotta get my private jet. And it turned out Tyler Perry was selling his Gulfstream 5, so Kenneth Copeland bought it. And he's
how
like,
fortuitous.
He actually
Truly
said later
God's
on,
will.
like, how could I not buy it when it's being sold for, I guess, as cheap as it was sold? Anyway, 2015, this all happened. But Inside Edition this last month did an episode where they were like, let's expose this televangelist's wealth. And it's like, dude, the story's 4 years old. But all right, Inside Edition, you do you. And Lisa Guerrero, the one of the reporters, like basically stopped Copeland as he was going in and out of one of his things. Like, so he's getting in a car and she's like, sir, with her camera crew, like, answer some questions. And she's attractive. So
Did
Copeland.
you say Misty Copeland?
Kenneth Copeland is the pastor, not the gymnast.
Ballet dancer.
Ballet dancer? Sure. So Lisa Guerrero is attractive, and Kenneth Copeland was about to get back into his car, and then you see him perk back up. He's like, all right, I'll talk to you. And so anyway, she's asking questions and stuff of him, like, why do you need this jet? And why are you doing all this stuff? And what ended up, Inside Edition aired a 3 to 4 minute segment on Televangelist. This interview was 2 minutes long. Whoa. But here's some of the stuff that came out of the short interview that he did. Is the jet important to your ministry? She asked. Do you need it?
That's such a good question.
Yeah. And he's like, he basically said, don't you ever say otherwise, that I'm greedy or something. I would have to stop 65% of what I'm doing if he didn't have this plane.
65%?
Yeah. She said, how much did you pay for the Tyler Perry Gulfstream 5 jet? Well, for example, that's really none of your business.
For example?
She asked, isn't it the business of your donors? He says, listen, he made that airplane so cheap for me, I couldn't help but buy it. And along the way in this 3-minute clip, it was the facials. Oh my God, the facial reactions are insane.
Really?
But okay, so last week, so that was an interesting thing. What happened is 3 weeks after that segment aired, a 30 to 50 second clip of it where you see Copeland just getting visibly angry went viral on Twitter and Facebook and other places. And it's like, look at the crazy preacher with this televangelism stuff and the jet. So that was going crazy. Kind of funny. Yeah. But the interview happened it aired a month ago. Anyway, this week, Inside Edition said, here's the long form interview. The raw footage, the 12-minute interview, even though we only showed you 30 seconds. Here's what he said in that clip that they didn't show in the segment. It takes a lot of money to do what we do. We have brought over, the latest figures just came out, 122 million people to the Lord Jesus Christ.
Really?
Yeah, really?
Wow.
Give me some citations there.
Yeah.
He says to Guerrero, I love your eyes.
Yikes.
She says, do you use your private jets to go visit your vacation homes? Yes, I do.
Oh.
She said, explain your demons, the long tube full of demons comment. He says, people get pushed in alcohol. Do you think that's a good place for a preacher to be and go prepare to go preach to a lot of people? When somebody's in there dragging some woman down an aisle, it made me so mad to see that on television. I assume he means the rowdy United. I don't know.
Oh.
He's like, I wanted to punch the guy out myself. I can't be doing that while I'm getting ready to preach.
You could not
You could
punch
not.
somebody.
Yeah. He also,
I would say that's always an option.
He
It's
also
not to punch.
said that he's wealthy, but it's not because people give him money in the name of God. He said, I also have a lot of natural gas on our property. Didn't know that, did you, baby?
Ooh,
Oh, yeah.
No.
And he says, and she says, now I do. Yeah, you do. Ain't that wonderful? And Guerrero says, it's wonderful for you.
Oh,
nice.
my God.
Nice shade. And then finally, in the clip, he says, justifying his wealth. If you go to the Old Covenant, do you think the Jewish people believed you should be broke? She says, are you saying that Jewish people appreciate money more than... and he cuts her off. They believe in wealth. So anyway, this is the long-form interview. So since then, This is last week they aired this thing, and the whole thing is damning. Since then, you have even other Christian televangelist publishers like defending him on this indefensible stuff. So you had James Robison, who is an evangelical advisor to Trump, saying like his wife was watching this segment, and she, quote, wept so freely she could not watch till the end. Because they were attacking Copeland for his wealth.
Poor guy.
Charisma, the crazy publication that thinks witches are real. The publisher is named Stephen Strang. And he said, like, yeah, it is. The planes, they are like tubes full of demons. He said it is like a tube. It's very crowded. And, he'd be speaking in a little bit of hyperbole. But there are people in those airplanes who are not spiritual. They serve alcohol.
What?
On the planes. He said, quote, there are demonic activities and an atmosphere of oppression on commercial flights that someone like Copeland simply should not have to endure as he's spreading the gospel.
Because he's better.
So that's one defense, but that's nothing compared to the defense from Dr. Michael Brown, who is this Jew for Jesus type of messianic Jew, who said on Twitter, he's like, I'm just asking a question here.
Oh, sure.
So you know it's going to be good. I'm going to paraphrase because his tweet makes no sense. I'm going to paraphrase what he's saying in good faith of what he's trying to say. He said, would it be okay for any Christian leader to fly somewhere instead of taking a bus? And I would argue, yeah. I mean, it's probably more expensive to fly, depending on where you're going. But if you're traveling a long distance and it would take you a long time on a bus, I get why you would spend a few extra bucks getting a plane ticket.
Sure.
I've never heard anyone denouncing a preacher for using a plane when a bus would do, especially for a longer flight. So that's fine. So here's what Brown says. By extension, then, why is it so wrong for him to use a private jet when he could fly commercial? Because that's more expensive. But like, if money isn't the issue, then why are you mad at him? Because the correct comparison, in my opinion, would be, why is he flying first class when he could be flying coach?
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, then we can have a discussion about, is it worth the upgrade fee or whatever? But someone actually did the math here. We don't know how much he paid for the plane, but on the low end,
really cheap.
On the low end, then it's about $6 million, but it's probably like $12 or $15 million for the plane. Then, if you look at how much it costs to maintain a private jet, the low end is about $700,000 a year because you need a pilot, you need the maintenance costs, you need
like gas.
Gas, yeah, right.
Is that how planes work?
And so this is what the guy said, like. This is from a website called Museum of Idolatry, which is kind of Christians criticizing other Christians. Stephen Kozar, the blogger there, said $700,000. That comes out to about almost $2,000 a day. And that's on top of whatever it costs to buy the plane.
Yeah.
So Kenneth Copeland would have to buy a new ticket every day, $2,000, to make it worthwhile financially to justify it. That's without factoring in the cost of the plane. So Michael Brown's argument that you don't actually care about the money, it's like, no, this is such a huge leap that you really do have to question the finances here, because it's not about saving money for your ministry. That's Copeland's argument. He needs the jet to do the work he does, because it would be crazy if he didn't have it. No, there is no justification for your ministry needing something that expensive when you could send your staff on a plane, fly first class if you want to. That would still do the trick, and you wouldn't lose that much in the process. It would be cheaper to hire an extension of your ministry to work in Africa full time than for you to fly there back and forth. And by the way, let's take a side route to my summer home.
Right. Anyway. Yeah, I mean, and I think for most people, it's why does a pastor or priest have private jet money? I think that's kind of the crux of it. Is like, are you like? I just think, I mean, obviously
they always justify it like, well, I'm doing all this work. My ministry does so much good. You could do way more if you.
Yeah, I think there's always like, we've learned that concentrated wealth is really bad. And at least people who are like CEOs or hedge fund managers or whatever are like blatant about like, yes, I like capitalism. I like making a lot of money. I have a lot of money.
Right.
But it just seems really disingenuous for a priest or a preacher or a televangelist or whatever to be have that same lifestyle, but still preach like...
Or to say, no, this isn't about greed. My ministry does the work that justifies the money I take in.
Yeah, I think bringing capitalism into religion is probably not going to get us anywhere particularly good.
Yeah, so... good times.
I have another money story.
Yes.
The Catholic Church has money.
Mm-hmm.
What? Has spent $10.6 million to lobby against abuse victims. This is over the...
Say that again.
To lobby against abuse victims. So over the past 8 years, the Catholic Church has spent $10.6 million in just the Northeast U.S., the northeastern U.S. to fight legislation that would help victims of clergy sexual abuse seek justice. So really, really doing God's work,
There are
guys.
all these states that are saying, like, look, we know now that all these people are coming out about how they were abused as kids by priests. And one of the problems is they can't sue the church or the priest because the statute of limitations has expired.
Right.
So there's a lot of bills in a lot of these Northeast states, just because that's the one they looked at here for this study.
Yeah.
All these states are trying to pass laws that like extend the statute of limitations. So if you were abused as a child and you want to sue your abuser, it's okay if it's only been past 5 years ago or 10 years ago.
Or one of them was you have to sue by the time you're 23, and they've increased it to 55.
It's a way to get justice in the way that the law didn't permit before, and that's what the Catholic Church is spending money for lobbyists to fight against. Because as if there's some allegation that, like, well, you shouldn't do this. Here's the reasons why expanding the statute of limitations.
No, they're covering their own ass.
Like, oh my God. Even means, as a PR perspective from the Catholic Church. Like,
which means, Hemant, that they think that this $10 million is a sacrifice they're willing to make because should these laws pass, it will cost them much, much more than that.
Right.
So I don't want to say it's an admission of guilt, but it's an admission of guilt.
We would have to pay out so much to the victims. Don't do that to the church.
And we'll pay $10 million now and save ourselves $100 million later.
Yeah.
I want to highlight
more than half the money, by the way, was spent on lobbyists in Pennsylvania. Specifically in Pennsylvania is where that grand jury report really kicked everything off.
Yep. Pennsylvania, they spent $5.3 million. New York was next up, 2.9. Here's what I think is most interesting. They spent $134,000 in New Hampshire despite no legislation being introduced.
The only thing I wonder about that is, did the church manage to stifle that legislation?
Could very well be.
But in other states, like New Jersey, they signed into law the bill that would expand the statute of limitations.
I don't know that there was I'm just skimming.
Yeah.
I don't know if they're successful anywhere.
The
Child Victims Act signed into law. HB 962, 963 passed in April.
Yeah, like some of these bills have passed one chamber but not the other, or they've passed but haven't been signed into law. But the thing is, you don't know what the reason for that is. If it's because of the lobbying from the church that stopped it from getting signed into law, or whether there was just, a lot of bills get proposed and never passed because of a bunch of issues. We don't know. But what we do know is, just looking at the numbers, they spent more than $10.6 million trying to stop these bills from passing.
Yeah.
And in some states, these bills didn't pass for whatever reason. Mm-hmm. But the point is, the church is trying to stop victims from getting justice or trying to get justice because this is going to save them money in the long run.
Just according to this study, except for New Hampshire, all of the states at least have something active as of the time of this release. So they spent a lot of money and
so that's where your tithe money is going.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Good job, team.
Here is a new study about politics, Democratic primary, and this is a study that came from Morning Consult. And basically what they said is, among different groups of Democrats, who are you voting for? Who do you prefer in the Democratic primary right now? And so for example, among Roman Catholics, guess which Democrat gets the biggest share of the Roman Catholic vote right now? Joe Biden, because he wins just about every poll right now. Best name recognition. It would be nice to go back to a time like Obama was in office. Okay, fine. Not surprising. Atheists were the one group specifically atheists, not nuns, atheists were the one group where Joe Biden was not the number one person on the list.
That tracks.
Yeah. Who did they support? Who do atheists prefer more than Biden?
Warren.
No.
What?
Warren came in a close third to Biden's second.
Harris? Oh, Sanders.
That
was,
yeah. So Bernie Sanders.
To be honest, I forgot that Bernie Sanders existed for a second.
It's about 27% of atheists support Bernie Sanders, prefer Bernie Sanders more than the other candidates.
Sure.
I think if I'm reading this correctly, Elizabeth Warren's probably around 11%. Biden's maybe at 12%. But like atheists are the only group where Sanders wins the plurality and Joe Biden is not in first place. And I kind of wonder, like, okay, what is it that atheists see in Sanders than someone like Elizabeth Warren or Pete Buttigieg? I get the Joe Biden thing because Biden's playing to the center, and atheists are very much never at the center as a whole. But I'm wondering, like, I mean, okay, as one of them, the appeal for Sanders, I get it, but I don't love him more than some of the other candidates.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean,
I don't dislike him.
Kind of tracks anecdotally to what I am aware of, but
his campaign, I will say, has probably done more than the others to openly talk about non-religious people, but even they haven't really done it. It's more like they pay more lip service to us and talk about church-state separation.
Right.
And like, if I could tell something to the Warren campaign, it's like, there's no reason you can't do that.
Right.
Don't play to atheists if it's going to hurt you.
Right.
But you could play to church-state separation and science and research and all that stuff. So, I don't know.
I mean, and I think also Sanders still has leftover momentum from 2016, which is probably, I'm curious to see how.
I don't think it's going to last.
I don't think so either.
I think too many of his positions are just, I mean, he overturned his position on the Hyde Amendment in 24 hours because the pressure got to him.
Yeah.
And it's great that he changed his mind, but it's like you have a lot of positions where you need to reverse course on.
Right.
And at some point, like Elizabeth Warren's going to just come out with I got it right the first time.
Yeah.
Everyone in the debates are going to attack him for his positions.
Do you want to talk a little bit about the Hyde Amendment so people know what you're talking about?
The Hyde Amendment says no federal money can be used for abortion rights on health care that it involves abortion. No taxpayer money, which basically shuts out, like, Planned Parenthood has to fend for itself.
Right.
They get money, but it's for like reimbursements for mammograms.
Right.
They can't get any money to help women who need abortions. And Elizabeth Warren and a lot of the other ones have said, like, no, I want to get rid of that. I want to overturn it. If we have the votes, I want to do it. And Biden was like, no, I'm fine with it.
Yeah.
And everyone rightly criticized him because it's a stupid amendment that shouldn't be there. It's a religious right amendment, and he's fine with it. And then, like, a day later, he's like, I changed my mind.
What?
Like,
oh,
I
that Hyde Amendment.
Yeah, right, right.
I heard an interesting take about Biden that, like, yeah, he's doing really well now, but it's hard to see a path that he is going to grow his base.
Yeah.
Like, if he has, like, 100% recognition.
Which Democratic primary voters are eager to jump on the Biden train?
Right. Like,
right now?
Like, he's got 100% name recognition, so that means everybody knows who he is, and so people who have choosing to support him.
And so does Sanders, by the way.
There's nowhere to grow.
Same with Sanders. Like, I don't know that it's going to get bigger.
Yeah.
It'll only stay or get smaller.
Yeah.
But, like, this is where the Buttigieg bump comes in because no one knew who he was like a year ago. And so he can only go up. And I would argue, same with Elizabeth Warren, Kamala Harris. This is funny. Cory Booker got probably the smallest amount of support among all the religious groups they looked at.
Really?
And that doesn't surprise me at all because he is super liberal, but so is everybody in the except
really
Joe
religious.
Biden. But he's super religious, and he always talks about Jesus on the campaign trail as a progressive Christian. So I don't mind it. He's very much he's church-state separation, but he talks about Jesus in every sentence. But like, it's not winning him over. Here's what I don't get, though. There is this opening where you have a voting base of nuns, so atheists and then some, who are not mobilized in an organized way, but who theoretically could be, and literally none of these candidates are doing jack to try and make use of that, which would be helpful in a primary and certainly helpful in a general election because you know the evangelical right is motivated.
Yeah.
Like, I don't get that the far right, it seems like they do all this horrible stuff politically, but they're so good about voting.
Oh, yeah. I would think they are very cautious of appearing not anti-religious in any way. That would be my guess.
And that's my argument. You don't have to be anti-religious. I don't need you advocating atheism for
sure.
us.
No, I agree with you.
So you can easily say, and they're not doing it though, like just talk about church-state separation and how everyone's religious views, you respect them, but also you're here on evidence-based policies.
Right. And how
you could say that in a nice way.
Well, and how church, and you can always spin it, the church-state separation is good for both church and state.
And like, I haven't heard it enough. So interesting. I'm very curious how that'll change as the primary continues.
Yep.
This is a fascinating, crazy one for you. There is a district attorney in Tennessee, Craig Northcott. He's the district attorney general for Coffee County, Tennessee, which is famous for being the home of Bonnaroo. And
God.
Here's his thing. Like, he's been in the news.
Why do you know what Bonnaroo is?
Because I know some white people. He said that Islam is evil and suggested that all Muslims are evil too.
Sure.
Like, he's getting crap for that, as he should. But get this. There was a speech he made in 2018, more than a year ago, that only became public information, like, to the rest of us now. Like, it wasn't hiding anywhere, but a news outlet found it. Yeah. They didn't even dig it up. Like, if you search the guy's name, it shows up.
Oh, weird.
So, like, but whatever. They're like, hey, did you guys hear what this guy said? And here's what he said. His argument, I'm going to paraphrase and then I'll quote it for you. His argument is that the Christians that he was talking to at Schaeffer Theological Seminary Bible Conference in 2018, he was saying, look, your votes matter. And that as Christians, you need to vote your values and crap like that. Yeah. That's not surprising. Every politician says that.
Sure.
And he said, the marriage equality decision by the Supreme Court affects me as a district attorney.
Oh.
Now, how does it do that?
How?
Because what are you going to do?
Wait, can I guess?
Yes, please.
Affects him as a district attorney.
Yeah, affects him on the job.
On the job. So it would have to be something about him defending a gay couple.
Close.
Okay.
He's basically defending like the Kim Davis approach to politics, which is I'm in a government role, but I'm a Christian, so you don't get a marriage license.
And that's more important than my governmental role is my religion.
Right. But here's what Northcott said, which is way worse.
Oh, no.
I think. He said that, and I'm going to quote here, what do I do with domestic assaults? The reason that there's enhanced punishment on domestic violence is to recognize and protect the sanctity of marriage. So me punching you is bad, but me punching you when you're my wife is even worse from a legal standpoint.
That's a terrible proposal.
There you go. But it's like, if you prosecute domestic assault, you get a bigger charge, a longer punishment, a longer fine, a bigger fine, a longer stay in prison, whatever it is. So the question is, if you know that some guy punches out another guy, he can prosecute that as an assault. Or if they're in a relationship, he can prosecute it as a domestic assault. And he said, what do I do with domestic assaults? The reason that there's enhanced protection on domestic violence is to recognize and protect the sanctity of marriage. And I said, there's no marriage to protect. So I don't prosecute them as domestics.
Oh.
So if two gay guys in a relationship, one of them's abusive to the other, he prosecutes it as an assault, but not a domestic assault, because he doesn't buy the label domestic as it applies to a gay couple.
That is an astoundingly bad take.
Oh, man. Yeah.
I can't believe it.
He's basically saying to the victim of that a crime, to the victim of that abuse, I'm not going to prosecute your attacker because you're gay and you were married to the guy, as opposed to a stranger who attacked you.
I have a question. Yeah. Can we go back to his premise? That the reason that we prosecute domestic assault
is to recognize and protect the sanctity of marriage.
Yeah.
Which I don't believe is in any of the things.
I don't think that's how it works. Isn't it just because it's like you can't escape this person if they're your partner. I
Maybe.
actually don't know why.
I don't know what the reason is.
Somebody's a lawyer.
I would find it hard to believe that in the writing of why domestic assault gets a bigger punishment, it's we need to preserve marriage because the person needs to stay in the abusive relationship.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, that's interesting. That wasn't his concern. That like,
but again, this is basically saying like it's not even. I'm not going to defend them because they're gay, which I almost would understand at this point because that's what conservative Christians do. But he's like, no, I will fight for their rights as a victim of violence in court. But if the abuser was their gay husband, I'm going to lessen the charge on this guy.
That's
like,
not
dude.
Great. Super not great.
And now here's the thing. He said that rhetorically. We don't know if he's actually acted on that. We don't know if there's any evidence that someone came to him and said, I was attacked by my husband and I'm a guy. And then he didn't prosecute them for domestic assault and he did simple assault instead. We don't know if he's done that. The media outlets, newspaper reporters have not found any example of that. So it's all hypothetical, but it is disturbing. Same thing about his comment about Islam. Islam is evil, therefore like Muslims are evil. We don't know if there's any proof that he's treated Muslims differently through his job. So like, condemn him for the things he says, but we don't know if this guy has done it. Because if he's done it, now you can make a case he shouldn't be in that job anymore.
Right.
So that's a question that we don't know the answer to yet.
It's interesting. I have another homophobic thing.
Please.
So there is a gentleman named Mark Chambers. He's the mayor of Carbon Hill, Alabama. He is posting memes on Facebook, which is cool.
Yes.
The one in question, he posted a like really stupid looking, like it's not a meme. It's just it's just a picture of words.
Yes.
And like, anyway, we live in a society where homosexuals lecture us on morals, transvestites, lecture us on human biology, baby killers lecture us on human rights, and socialists lecture us on economics! !
These are all supposedly bad things.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I'm sorry. Yes. Did I not read it with the proper with the proper tone? Which is, I'm going to say, not great on its face. Just that in particular, super, super not good.
So he posted that image.
Somebody commented, by giving the minority more rights than the majority. Oh, that was a complete sentence. Sorry. That was why my reading was weird.
Which, by the way, we don't. It's the fight's always for equal rights, not special rights.
I hate to think the country my grandkids will live in unless somehow we change, and I think that will take a revolution.
So some random person,
just like, a rando.
Oh man, we need to do a revolution to stop this stuff.
Mark Chambers, again, the mayor of a town in Alabama. The only way to change it would be to kill the problem out. I know it's bad to say, but without killing them out, there's no way to fix it.
Yeah. So
Should
his
I talk
answer,
about his grammar? Am I missing the point if I talk about his grammar?
Yeah. Okay. He's a mayor who doesn't know periods or space bars or English. So basically, it's a not so subtle threat to say the only way to solve the problem of, I guess, gay people having equal rights is to kill them.
Kill them out.
My favorite thing about this, there was a news station.
You have a favorite thing?
I do. WBRC, Fox 6 News. They contacted him about this statement. Here's the order that I pieced together from what happened. They asked him, like, hey, why did you say you want to kill gay people? That's their premise. He says he lied about making the comment.
Oh.
Which he did.
Got a screen read, bud.
Right.
Got the
then
receipts.
He hung up on the reporter.
Ooh, good
which
luck.
Was stupid. And by the way, she has her phone out on speaker and the camera's on her as she's reporting. He hung up on her. Then he called back to say his comments were taken out of context.
I don't know if that's true.
They were not. Then he denied saying anything about killing gay people, which he totally did. You just read it. Then he said he was only about killing gay people in a revolution, if that situation ever came to be.
Sure.
Then he blamed Facebook for making that public. As if he doesn't he's an old guy who doesn't know how Facebook works. Well, because he started,
no, I didn't say it. Yes, I said it, but it's Facebook's fault for letting people know I said it.
And then after
on this
all
public forum.
After all that, he changed his settings to private so no one can see his Yeah.
So I didn't, in that long winding road that we took to get his Facebook changed to private, I didn't hear an apology, actually.
No, there's no apology because obviously he was just being ironic or say, I don't know how it worked. No. I don't know what the new excuse is for when you say that stuff.
Yeah. I mean, I work in irony. That's not how this read to me. Also,
by the way, I looked up this guy's campaign website from when he ran for mayor. He said he was running for office because Carbon Hill, the city, was not going in a positive direction.
That doesn't mean anything.
And here's this guy.
Yeah, he hates liberals. Can I be really petty for a second?
Yes.
And this is not even about grammar. This screen grab was like, you can see when the comment was made. So at the time of the screen grab, it was 3 days old. Guess how many likes it got?
How many?
1.
Aww.
It's so embarrassing.
The mayor doesn't even have anyone liking his post.
It's so embarrassing. Just like a boomer screaming into the wind.
Doesn't realize it's public.
Maybe that's why he didn't know it was public, because nobody's ever read or commented anything he's written. So he's like, I guess nobody can see it.
Because in his close circle of 300 friends, they're all like, sure, we're friends. Like, no, there are plenty of people on Facebook I'm friends with, but really, I'm just keeping tabs. I just got to know what people are doing.
Once every 6 months, you say that you had dinner with friends last week. So, I know you have some friends.
That's a lie.
I didn't mean to slander you on our show.
Get this, in West Virginia, before we move on from the Catholic Church, there's a bishop. West Virginia has one diocese, because smaller state, has one diocese. The bishop, his name was Michael J. Bransfeld. And the Washington Post somehow got a hold of documents, which you never see in situations like this, talking about where their money went.
Whoa!
Yeah, and what they found is that this guy Bransfeld spent millions of dollars on personal travel and gave gifts, like $350,000 worth of presents to different people, including priests.
Why don't I have any friends who
and
give
they
me
just the church just reimbursed him for all of this shit.
No shit.
Some of those priests are one who have accused him of harassing them, and he's like, "Here, take a present. Shut up." Yeah, and some of the gifts were like $15,000. In the records that they have, you could see that the names of 11 leaders who received money from him were edited out of the document at the request of the archbishop overseeing the investigation into this, whose name is William Lorry. By the way, one of those checks for $10,500 went to William Lorry.
Oh, no!
Yeah.
Oh, buddy.
And here, some of the crazy
you told
stuff.
on yourself, William.
Some of the stuff he spent money on. He spent $2.4 million on travel. I'm quoting here, much of it personal, which included flying in chartered jets, staying in luxury hotels. They spent nearly $1,000 a month on alcohol. He needed
$1,000 a month on alcohol.
You spend $2 on the wine bottles, and they're fine.
I buy $16 wine boxes like a lady.
Thank you. They also said his church residence, paid for by the church, right? There was a fire, and it damaged one bathroom, so he needed to fix up that bathroom, which, okay, fine. Guess how much the church gave him, the diocese gave him for those renovations?
I'd say a bathroom should cost $8,000 to $10,000.
$4.6 million.
If you tell me it's a half bath, I'm going to die.
And I don't have this in front of me. He also got money for flowers, bring me flowers to my house every day, like a Valentine's Day flower bouquet delivered to my house every day, like a $100 bouquet every day for years. I've
never
it costs more than $100,000 in delivered flowers.
I pay $30 a month to get my contacts delivered to my house, and it feels like the height of luxury.
Yeah, so this guy spent all that money. He was removed from his position following the sexual harassment allegations, not because of the article. They said the finances had to do with why he was removed. Not the harassment, but the finances. Sure. But it's only now that we figured out what the finance situation was.
Oh my God.
So kudos to the Washington Post for getting that document. But holy shit, that's where your tithe money is going.
Cool.
Who knew? I have one more hilarious one.
Oh, good, because I have two more happy stories too. You go first.
Okay. My favorite thing, and it happened a week ago. I've been waiting all week to tell you this.
Oh my goodness, and a whole show.
I know. The Creationists answers in Genesis. They've done it before, but they did it again. Ken Ham posted something on the AIG website, basically saying, we have a new video out. It's some of our PhDs who work for us, and they have this whole video denouncing the idea of a flat earth because it's stupid. And you're thinking like, yeah, wow, you got one right this time.
Yeah.
And he's like, you should all watch the film because they denounced the flat earth. But in the post, he's basically saying, we've thoroughly researched because a lot of flat earthers use the Bible to justify their position. He's like, we've thoroughly researched the supposed biblical and scientific pieces of evidence presented in favor of such a wrong view. It simply isn't taught in Scripture, and the science doesn't support it. Although, sadly, many Christians are being convinced by cherry-picking data that only shows part of the whole story, and it's totally out of context. Dude, you're a creationist. The creationists are mad at the flat earthers for misusing science and misreading the Bible. It's the greatest thing ever.
It's so impressive when they do that.
The total lack of self-awareness for anyone who works for Ken Ham is incredible.
That's extremely funny.
Oh my God.
I like that a whole lot.
And like I want Ken Ham to watch his flat earth video because maybe it'll trigger something in himself.
No.
Because everything he's saying about them, we've said about him.
Oh my God, I'm so happy about this. I do like the infighting, the creationist infighting. I always find to be extremely fun for me. Oh. That's very good.
There's, by the way, no updates on the lawsuit that involves the flooding insurance.
Oh.
I've been looking. There's no updates yet.
Sure hope that doesn't come out of their big profit margin. Yeah. Some good news. Nevada decriminalized abortions. We talked about this a couple of weeks ago. It passed through the Nevada Assembly a couple of weeks ago. But as a reminder, the Nevada State Assembly is a majority of women. Anyway, that went to the governor's desk. He just signed it into law. So some good news in the a little lighthouse in the storm of this year.
These were laws that were in the books that they're getting rid of. Mm-hmm. And reading it says it's going to remove punishments for people who seek an abortion. Mm-hmm. It's going to remove punishments for doctors. It protects women who use birth control. Good.
Yeah, cool. And then last, this is just a really nice, wholesome story. There is a man from San Diego. His name is Jawandeep Sohli, S-O-H-L-I.
Kohli.
With a C?
With a K.
With a K? Oh, Kohli.
I'm brown. I can read Ks.
Fuck you. Anyway, he posted a picture of himself. So he's a Sikh. So he's wearing a turban. And he did this dope pride flag turban. And it looks amazing. I'm sure Hemant will post a link to it. I mean, I don't know.
It's a rainbow turban.
It's a rainbow turban. It's so cool. And he posted, quote, "I'm proud to be a bisexual, bearded, baking brain scientist. I feel fortunate to be able to express all these aspects of my identity, and I will continue to work towards ensuring the same freedom for others." On the turban, he said he made it himself from one of his normal black turbans and supplemented it with strips of other colors in exactly the right places. It took an hour of tying, untying, and safety pinning, but totally worth it. Anyway, it's just very wholesome. The picture makes me super happy.
And I think Obama retweeted it too.
Did he?
Yeah.
Oh, that's great.
And said it was a good thing. Oh, I did find one more thing.
Oh, just when I was talking?
Just when I was talking before I forgot. There's one more story. Because it shows you just how messed up some of these conservative Christians can be. John Piper is a preacher we've talked about before. He's a Calvinist. He thinks you're all depraved and you're all doomed. So might as well accept Jesus. But here's the tweet that his people sent through his ministry's account. "God disciplines only those he loves. If he makes us weak, he's loving us. If he makes us ill, he's loving us. Even if he takes our life, he's loving us."
So if I'm successful, God hates me?
Probably. But replace God with anyone's name.
Yeah, that's rough.
And it's
that's rough going.
That's not how you talk about anyone who hurts you like that. Stay away. Oh, man.
That's bad.
I'm done.
You're done? Did you watch the Netflix series When They See Us?
No, not yet. The Central Park 5 one?
Yes.
Not yet.
Mikey and I watched it this week. It was extremely hard to watch, but I would recommend it. after it's 4 episodes, they're all between an hour and an hour and a half. And after the first one, I was clinging to my dog and told her that she's the only good thing in this world. So I think it's a very, very tough watch. I think it's a really important one. I would recommend it. I thought it was very interesting to watch the whole thing play out. Yeah, it was.
These are people Trump said they should be put to death.
Yeah, I guess I should explain. I'm sure people who know the.
They were accused of rape.
Yeah, in 1989, a woman was raped and left for dead. And at that same point in the park, there was like a group of like Black and Hispanic kids who were like roaming around and like causing mischief, and
But not raping
anybody. And they somehow found 5 kids whom they pinned this crime on, despite the fact that the physical evidence didn't support it. Their stories didn't match each other or what actually happened. They were held by detectives without parental consent or supervision for up to 48 hours, beaten, starved, until they said what they wanted. In some cases, the parents said, just give them what they want. They won't let up. They all got convicted. And then just a few years ago, they were released when the actual murderer or the actual rapist admitted it. It's very difficult to watch. The language is really troubling. There's a lot of like subtle, not so subtle, but like, you know, these animals did this thing really dehumanizing these like 14, 15, 16-year-old kids. It's very good and it's very difficult, but I think important. As saying a show is important, is that like the peak white?
Saying a Netflix show is peak white.
Anyway, what do you have going on? Anything this weekend? Any good things you want to talk about?
Next week, if you are in Chicago on Tuesday night, we mentioned this last week, Andrew Seidel, who is an attorney for the Freedom from Religion Foundation, he just wrote a book about the myth of Christian nationalism, that we live in a Christian nation. So he's doing a talk downtown. Look it up. It's on his Twitter feed. I'll post a link to it. I'm emceeing the thing. Jerry Coyne is going to be asking him questions. Should be a good event. If you're around town Tuesday night, come on by.
Maybe I'll tag along.
Come on
Mikey's
down.
going to be out of town all next week.
Do it.
And
do it.
I, unlike you, need human interaction.
What? It's overrated.
I'm
going to start recording the new podcast.
Oh, yay!
Yay!
I got my my Kickstarter updates about how good you're doing. I'm very happy for you.
We're all done. It was raised.
That's awesome.
Thank you, everybody.
I recently dropped the prices in my Etsy shop. I'd raised them for a while because I had no downtime, and so I raised them so if I didn't have to do as much work. But I just dropped them. So if you want a cool feminist cross-stitch, or I have some of my favorite murder stuff, true crimey stuff, check it out. I do a lot of custom work, and most of my custom work I get through listeners. So if you have a weird thing, I wish I looked this up and knew her name. I made somebody a cross-stitch because she and her partner had just watched Heathers. So I made a cross stitch that says "fuck me gently" with a chainsaw and a image of a chainsaw. It was dope. Anyway, I guess that's it. You can follow me on Twitter at Blueberry, BLUEBURIE. You can follow me on Instagram if you'd like.
What?
It's also Blueberry, but it's spelled differently because I never thought anybody would give a fuck. It's Blueberry with a Y, BLUEBURY. Blueberry with a Y was taken on Twitter when I tried. It was like shut up. But anyway, you can follow me there, although honestly, it's mostly just the same shit I post to Twitter. I'm not a keen photographer. Donate to our Patreon if you want to support the work that we're doing. Patreon.com/Friendly Atheist Podcast. Email us at friendlyatheistpodcast@gmail.com if you want to talk to us. We read all of them and post a review on iTunes.
Oh, right.
I keep checking because my favorite hobby is to post about mean reviews of me and like take screen grabs of them. Unfortunately, they've all been really kind, so I haven't been able to indulge that particular hobby of mine. Anyway, we will talk to you next week.
Bye.